All right, I have members of Big Mother Gig with me here today. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us what you do in the band, then introduce the rest of the band.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Craig. I'm Richard Jankovic. I'm the Milwaukee native in the band. I sing and write the songs and play guitar.
And I am Mike. I am the Chicago native, LA transplant, and I am lead guitar player and sing backup vocals with Richard.
And then the other two members who aren't here that sort of rounds us out is Micah Lopez, our bassist, originally from Minneapolis, and our drummer Albert Kurniawan, if I'm even saying that right, who's Indonesian by way of Nebraska on drums.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. All right, so you guys originally formed back in the early '90s, in, when you were here in Milwaukee, Richard.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, we started in 92. I was a student at Marquette University. I started the band, in the dorms there, and then kept at it until 96. Actually, what we were on MSC a few times back then. I remember we came and visited Buzz a few times on his
okay,
show and talked or played songs.
right when he would have been on it, like, was that Friday afternoons
I think so. Yeah, we
back
would have
then?
like a show at Brett's or whatever, and we would stop there to promote it.
Right on. So yeah, you guys released a number of albums back in the '90s, and then it looks like in the like about 5 or 6 years ago, you guys decided to get back together.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a 20-year break, and I did a lot of other stuff in those 20 years, but really got the itch, to kind of come back and get back to my roots, the sort of like um, Midwestern power pop indie rock style that I kind of grew up listening to. So convinced the sort of the last lineup of our band. We get a few lineup changes, but got the last lineup to reunite. We played, I guess 2017 was the big reunion show at Turner Hall. We got a bunch of other bands too from the scene to play with us, like Slur and the FS Camels, and just good friends. It was just a really great time.
So was it easy getting everybody back together? You were all still in LA, and everybody. What
Yeah,
was?
it's I mean it's a little complicated and not to get too deep in the weeds, but it was not easy.
Oh, okay.
Well, our everyone had moved into
Mhm.
different places, um, and that lineup, that was the sort of final '90s lineup. We played the one reunion show. We had a sub on guitar because our guitarist was this guy named Riz who still lives in Malaysia. So he recorded. We did some new songs with him, but he couldn't do the show. Um, then when I got back to LA afterwards, I talked to those guys and I was like, man, I just want to keep this going. And they were like, hey, best of luck to you. We got jobs to get back to. We have families to get back to taking care of. So I found some new guys. Mike's one of them that just had the same kind of pedigree, the same influences, and the same upbringing, so that we could kind of just do it all again. So the version of Big Mother Gig now is, LA people that I met that were all originally Midwesterners that all grew up, listening to the Replacements and stuff like that
Okay.
too. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, and you have a brand new album that came out on Friday, titled Gusto. Um, that you guys all recorded. You recorded with the new lineup.
Yeah, yeah. We actually recorded this thing in 2019.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and the original plan was to release it almost exactly 1 year ago, right, Mike?
Yeah, that was. And then, you know, acts of God had other plans for us. But yeah, and, we had recorded, we had gone into the studio previous to this for our last record, and we recorded five songs in the studio. And then we recorded 2 additional songs kind of all at our own studios and put them together and mixed it. And then we put out that record, which was called No More Questions. That was sort of a combination of songs from previous incarnations of the band and then the stuff that we did. But then this was the first album that we did where it was all us start to finish. You know, Richard can tell you all about the process, but basically he wrote all these songs essentially in a weekend, and we loved them, and we just started vibing on them and practicing and, you know, working out the arrangements. And then, you know, we actually recorded all these songs, you know, in a way that was kind of COVID conducive, but it was before everything shut down. We were all just recording our parts kind of on our own, putting it all together, and then we had it all mixed, and it came out great. But it was the first album that we did in this version, start to finish.
So yeah, with the songwriting, Richard, did you've been the constant songwriter throughout the entire history of the band, but having new members, did that play into, you know, into the songwriting or into the the assembly of the songs?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I am the quote unquote songwriter, which just means that I come in with, you know, the canvas. But when I wrote those demos over that long weekend, as Mike said, it was, you know, we then spent about 4 or 5 months just hashing them out in this, you know, in a rehearsal room together.
Mhm.
Because these 3 guys that I, you know, through some cosmic force united with out here, I just felt like they had so much to offer, and I really wanted to, you know, for them to put their stamp on the songs, and to let the songs grow and breathe. You know, there are things that are on the record that were not in the demos at all, that just kind of came out in the room of, you know, hey, let's just jam on this a little bit more, or stuff like that. And this record is, I mean, it's, I think every artist always says this about it, but it's phenomenal. I mean, the musicianship kind of blows my mind. I just feel so lucky to have these guys, you know, playing my, you know, bang 'em up rock and roll songs, but they make them sound so good.
You know, it's the
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah, I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say it's the kind of thing where like we all have a common sort of aesthetic, but yet
Mhm.
we all then have our own sort of like pushes and pulls. You know, like I'm sort of got more of the rock influence in the background, and Albert's got more of this, and Mike is more this, and Richard's more that, and it's sort of like just the right amount of tension that sort of allowed us to kind of like push and pull it like taffy, and like get it where like we're like, oh wow, you can hear everyone's sort of signature on this, and it's totally cohesive, which was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys have been working songs together, but you know, for the first album with the entirely new lineup, it's very cohesive. You know, the sound is incredibly cohesive. And you know, I guess when you were looking for, you mentioned that you guys all kind of have the same or a similar background of growing up in, you know, the 90s during you know, having formative years in the 90s and coming from the Midwest. And that definitely, I think, also translates through the sound, where it doesn't sound of an era, but it definitely harkens back to that guitar driven, you know, power pop, you know, kind of emo-ish rock
Yeah, yeah,
from
very
that
much
time.
so. Yeah, very much. That's definitely in our you know collective consciousness, is that influence is, you know, that's the thing that's so cool about it, is we have that in common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that, you know, I think, you know, also it seems like that's kind of something that's missing today, is that guitar driven power popish rock, you know, kind of, you know, pop, not pop punk, but
Hmm.
Yeah, one of
the,
the things that's really difficult, I also, you know, have spent 20 years working in the music industry, and so I'm very aware of, you know, formats and genres. And, you know, there is a tendency for rock music today to really neatly fit into these different styles. And one of the things that I miss is just, I mean, I don't even want to call it rock and roll, because that makes you think of, you know, Chuck Berry or, you know, Ike Turner or whatnot. But like, to me, it's just simple, bare bones indie rock, I guess. You
right.
know, in the late 80s when I was listening to the Replacements and Dinosaur Jr. and Husker Du, those were punk bands, but then they sort of grew up a bit and they just sort of created these just incredibly written songs that you could really relate to, and they were just guitar driven rock songs that I don't know, that I think today, if we were in our 20s or whatnot, they'd be finding a bucket to put us, like
Right.
this is your alternative or active rock or whatever, Imagine Dragons and all of these different little slots. I don't think we fit in any of those slots. The only thing is that we've been called emo a few times, which, that's all right. I never listened to what we call emo. Like I listened to the Descendants and stuff like
Right.
that I think kind of led there. But, you know, I left Milwaukee in 96 and I think Promise Ring started in 97 and I'd moved to New York and I was listening to drum and bass.
Right. And at that time, that was like the very, kind of the start of actually calling music emo at the time, like, and even before that, Cap and Jazz and, that kind of thing coming out of the Midwest. So that, yeah, at that point in time, it was even that genre was just in its infancy.
Yeah, exactly. And then, a few short years later, you've got, Jimmy Eat World and all of these giant bands that sort of, again, it gets codified. Like there becomes a formula. And
Mhm.
I never followed that genre because I had just moved into other areas. And so coming back, it's interesting, when the press writes about us and refers us as an emo band, I'm like, okay, if that means I'm being honest, I've got my heart on my sleeve and I'm just telling you my feelings, like you call it whatever you want. As long as people are listening, that's all that matters to me.
Right. And the songs are really catchy and they stick in your head and they're, I think they're really well written. They're, it's a really well put together album. Um, you said so you recorded this back in 2019 and then were ready to issue it right as the pandemic hit. So you guys have been sitting on this for a year.
Yeah.
What what was your, I guess, what was the catalyst for deciding that now is the right time to put it out?
Well, I mean, if I can be completely transparent, I wanted to see a change in the administration of our country before I felt like there was so much tension last year between politics and between the pandemic that I don't think we even had the mental energy to focus on putting out a record,
Okay.
much less would consumers even care, like would listeners even care, because we've been around for a long time, but we're still trying, we're clawing our way into people's ears. Like it's a lot of work to introduce our songs to people. And, when there was so much dominating the headlines, really through January, that it was like, why compete with all of that stuff? So we didn't know we were going to sit on it for a year. We kept
Mhm.
saying, we kept pushing it a few months, and then finally it's like, wow, it's been a year. We better get started putting this thing out.
So do you have so now, and I think this is a good time to, starting is becoming a good time to put out an album because hopefully we're on the downward side of everything, and as people get vaccinated, you'll be able to actually promote the album and get out there. I've talked to a lot of artists who put out albums because they wanted it out there but haven't been able to do anything.
Yeah, and it's true. And you know, we actually just signed with a booking a new booking agent we just signed with. So it is starting to look like touring is going to come back. Probably not till the fall, I think,
Right.
but going to be coming back. And yeah, it is a good time to start putting that music out there so that people, have the new songs they can listen to and just kind of, yeah, and then get out there and, hopefully we'll be coming back to Milwaukee soon. The last time Big Mother Gig played Milwaukee was about 2 years ago, I think. We came in and Mike wasn't even there. It was some of the original guys, the classic lineup. We played a show with the Posies at the coffee place. I can't remember what it's called. North, not north, but on the east side.
On the collective at the Collectivo on, yeah,
That's right, Collectiva.
Prospect.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
love playing Milwaukee. I mean, it's like a home base. So
yeah, I think I think that what Richard said, just to sort of I followed that up. I do think that a big part of this for us, and that's why we're so excited to have this booking agent on board, is, you know, you want to have a sense that when you put something out like this, that you have at least a pathway to get out there and put it in front of people and do the part that we love the most, which is actually playing. And that just felt really far away for a long time. And I think we were concerned that it might just get lost in the hibernation, so to speak. And, you know, Richard was really, you know, he was like letting a little bit out here and there and like making some videos and things like that. So we weren't completely, it wasn't like a complete void. But I think the time we decided this is the time for an actual record to come out, when we have sort of some things in sight that we can go and do to promote the record and kind of get in front of people. So that was a big part of it.
So have you've had these songs for 2 years now. Have you been able to be creative as a band in the meantime as well?
Yes, but not in terms of writing new material.
Oh, okay.
You know, but we've been very creative in terms of like finding ways to I know it's such a lame thing to say, but creating content. Like we've been, you know, we've all really kind of embraced the new music environment now. So we're always doing stuff, whether it's putting stuff on Instagram or even TikTok videos. I mean, we're doing all of that stuff constantly. So, and we made, I don't know, Mike, 6 music videos for this album so far. And so,
yeah, a lot. I mean, we've been definitely like, we've churned out a bunch of them, and they're all actually good. You know, like they're all unique, and they're all like we feel proud of them, that they fit the songs, and they're a cool representation of the song, you know, not just like something just to get it out there fast. Like, you know, Richard did a lot of planning and thought and filmed them right and edited them and made them an actual piece.
And I think that's one of the things as a band, especially in the pandemic, when you know, maybe, you know, so many bands can't get together even just to jam. It's important to kind of stay connected and continue to kind of keep yourself in front of listeners.
Yeah. I mean, we've got our little, you know, group chat that is just going all day long. But the 4 of us have not been in a room together since last January. You know, we played a show, which was almost like a showcase. We had finished the record and we played it. It was January of 2020, and you know, we had a bunch of friends there and some labels and stuff like that. And so we kind of like, we were getting ready to go out there. And it's looking back, that's the last time we were all in a room together. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a really, really different year, but I'm glad you guys decided to release this now and kind of get it in front of people, and hopefully very soon, you know, you can start actually playing in front of people. The Big Mother Gig's new album is Gusto. You can check it out at bigmothergig.com as well as bigmothergig.bandcamp.com. And you guys are up on all the socials, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, we are at Big Mother Gig on, you know, either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as our website, bigmothergig.com. It's probably the best place to go.
Yeah, so the new album, Augusto, came out on Friday. We're going to hear a couple of more songs off of that. Thank you very much for joining us here today, guys.
Thank you so much, Craig. We really appreciate your support.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us, Craig.